Today is a pretty special episode because this is kind of an interesting story. So last year, I met a contractor here called Newcastle, and we did the podcast with them, with Brad and Phil. And in getting to know those guys, we learned that Brad does some mentoring for some different people in the industry. And one of those people happens to be Marcus from Golden Wolf. So we're going to talk today about the role of mentorship in running a business. Running a business is an incredibly challenging endeavor. There's a lot that goes into it. And when you can bounce ideas off of someone, have someone you can talk to who has been there before and can kind of show you the ropes, that can be a great help. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'd like to welcome to the stage our guest, Marcus Celiano from Golden Wolf Landscape and Design.
You're listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up.
So like I said, Marcus, you met Brad a few years before starting your business or after starting your business?
So right when I was was finishing my last semester off at college, that's when I reached out to a couple companies in the area, and Newcastle was one of them. So it was right in the transition point of formally starting an LLC and then just finishing off that 1 year.
So let's go back to before you started your company, because when we were talking earlier today, you were telling me how you were in college and
Sure.
You weren't really enjoying yourself.
No, not too much. I was actually just telling a couple people before I stepped up here that I was actually listening to this podcast in my dorm room, watching Paper Pete videos before I formally started my business. So it's truly a humbling experience to be here, and just a year or 2.5 years to be up here. It's very surreal. So back when it really started, my true passion for hardscaping and landscaping, this green industry really started when I was 5 years old. I lived up in New Jersey, northern Jersey, Tewksbury Township, if anyone knows of the area. And when I was 5, I was glued to the window for most of the summer because my parents were getting their entire backyard renovated with a pool, hardscaping, retaining walls, pretty much the whole nine, landscape, lighting, irrigation. And after a couple weeks on being there, seeing the transformation, I finally mustered up the courage to ask my mom and dad, hey, can I just go out there and just be a little bit closer to the machines? And they finally said, yeah, just be careful. So they introduced me to the foreman, still remember it very vividly. His name is Jose. And he invited me onto the actual job site in the skid steer, running a plate compactor out there with the crews, put in polymeric sand in the joints. And I have home videos of that to this day. And to be able to look back on that, it's surreal with where I currently am. And that's really how a dream started of the hardscaping, landscaping green industry. Fast forward a couple years, I was involved in sports for the majority of my teenage life. Didn't really do too much in the landscaping sector until my mom's a real estate agent up in northern Jersey, and she had a couple clients that just wanted to spruce up their property and make it look nice before putting it on the market. So I said, yeah, I'm home for summer. Might as well just be busy, make a couple extra bucks before I headed back to school, and put mulch down. And that's sort of brought up those memories back from when I was 5 years old to that time. And even though it wasn't hardscaping, it wasn't the extreme of poolscape, still it was a transformation that I personally made on so much property. And that just led to a couple other houses that she had to sell before I went back. And just being able to be in that moment, see the transformation. And that was really the true beginning of me being an entrepreneur and starting. It was Celiano Landscaping, and then transitioning into Golden Wolf.
Okay. So you ended up, I guess you decided you were done with school.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a very difficult conversation to have. I remember that very vividly. So I did landscaping for a couple of summers, high school, college, and just growing each and every year on after. And I just got to a certain point where I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm not a student by any means. I was sitting in class looking up how to build a budget, how to make designs, how to install or watch and pay repeat videos.
Yeah. Well, you were a student of things that you were more interested in.
Correct.
That's what it was.
Correct. My attention and my passion wasn't in economics or business. It was truly in building a business from startup, and I'm very involved in marketing, and I was just a sponge of information reading. I mean, I probably read a book or two a week. I was just glued to it because I wanted to prepare myself professionally and personally for this endeavor that I'm going to be embarking on. I was a senior over at Alvernia University, not too far from here. And it was my fall semester of my senior year, so I stopped 1 semester short. I know probably a lot of people are freaking out with that, but when you have a passion and a drive for something, it's you just want to take that leap of faith, take that jump.
I get it.
So having that conversation with my parents, it was a difficult conversation. Some family members agreed, some didn't agree so much, but at the end of the day, I knew that I personally was doing the right thing for myself and for my future.
I did the same thing, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Never knew that.
1 semester to go, and like, nah. And here I am.
Yeah.
It's same industry.
Sure.
So, yeah, go ahead.
To go off of that, nowadays, a degree is for some degrees for what you're studying, it doesn't apply too much, especially in business. Trying to get out there and do it in the real world is more important.
It's the ability to have, the right attitude, the right work ethic, the right approach, and problem-solving skills. I mean, ultimately, business is just solving problems. The better you are at solving problems, the better you'll be in business.
Sure.
End of story.
Yep. 100%.
After that, there's different variations for different trades and whatever, but ultimately, that's what you're doing. So you decide to drop out. You decide to start your own company. That was 2 years ago? 3 years ago? How long?
I remember I formed the official Golden Wolf company November 17th, 2020.
Okay, so
when
there
I was
you go.
sitting in my dorm room.
So two and a half
years
couple
approximately,
months.
2 and a
2 years
quarter,
and a couple
2 and a
months.
third.
So today, what's the size of the company?
Right now, we have currently 10 employees. We're going to be bringing on 2 more crews come this upcoming spring season. So we'll be up to 15 to 17, looking on hiring a salesperson, moving some people around for different positions, a driver, that type of stuff. So I'd say probably around 15 to 17 come the spring season, because seasonal business, highs and lows, all that type of stuff.
So let's get to the, 'cause, I mean, I think we can agree that that's some pretty quick growth, like in 2 years, jumping to 4 crews, salesperson, 15, 17 employees. What does that journey look like when you're starting your business at that age? You're trying to hire people, you're young, you're trying to get customers, you're young.
Sure.
So what was your approach?
Going back to when I was watching those videos, reading those books, I wanted to prepare myself. So I wanted to be a little bit more mature for my age and use those hard skills that I learned in watching those videos in the books. And also during that time when I was in my fall semester of senior year, I reached out to a couple companies in the Reading, Pennsylvania area. I think it was either 3 or 4 of them. And one of them, Newcastle Lawn and Landscape, I know they're here today. The owner, Brad Stevenson, he reached out to me, or he responded to me and said that, sure, come on in. I'd love to meet you and just get to know more about you and share what we do. So that sparked a relationship. I didn't even know it at that time. I mean, I was just more in awe, like a kid in a candy store, walking into their facility, just seeing really what is possible in the green industry. I mean, they're probably up to $10 million, have 85 employees, and just to be able to see that at such a young starting point in my business venture gave me a goal and a vision to shoot for. And having someone that I could just go to and ask questions, and someone that I could ask advice on, that was helping me and aiding me throughout the growth.
So one thing that I think is critical there is you kind of got a vision of what success could look like.
Yes.
So we're just trying to grow. Like you know where you're trying to go, how you get there. A big part of it comes from the advice and the mentorship that you got. But when you reached out to these companies, were you reaching out with the intention of finding a mentor, or was it really just like, I want to make sure I don't make a mess of this thing, so I'm going to see if anyone is willing to share any info?
I was not looking for anything. I was just looking to meet new people in the industry. I know trying to build a network is very important. And by reaching out to other people in the industry, different market, but more or less different market, but just having someone else just to talk to and just look up to, more or less. I really wasn't looking for anything in particular. I was just more intrigued about what can I really scale this to? And that starts with just cold calling a couple places just to see what's out there. So it didn't start with anything in mind.
Okay. So what does that relationship look like today?
So today, Brad and I have weekly, or not weekly, monthly. We have monthly meetings, him and I. He comes into our business Golden Wolf, for quarterly meetings. And then we also go off-site when we all meet together for a yearly meeting. And then could obviously be things that come up sporadically that I could just shoot him a text, give him a quick call, but it's more regimented, more structured so that I could save the meaty conversations for each and every month instead of just using him as a crutch, which it's the last thing anyone should be in a mentor position, using someone as a crutch. You want to be able to use them to fuel your growth, not do it for you.
Mm-hmm. The monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, yearly meetings, like you said, how do you prepare for those so that, you are just using them as a crutch? You're not just like, well, today's the meeting, so what the hell's going on today? We have this problem, so you ask about that, but you forget about the 3 more important things happen at the start of the month.
Yeah. So, to go with the quarterly meetings, because that involves the whole office staff, not just myself. So those, we have weekly leadership meetings every single Friday. We adopted the EOS system from Brad in Newcastle.
And what does that mean?
I'm pretty sure the acronym stands for Employer Operating System.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm right or wrong on that, but it's from the book called Traction by Gino Wickman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just creating an open and honest floor plan and be able to discuss issues, be able to discuss to-dos, be able to put rocks out there, set goals. And every single week we go over the most important characteristics that we need to be focusing on a week-to-week basis. So with the quarterly meetings, it's we discuss some things and it's tracked on a weekly basis. And then the larger problems are brought up in those quarterly meetings so that they could be addressed with everyone, and then set future goals and to-dos for the entire office staff moving forward from that point. Personally, I just keep a little notebook over every single month and really sit down probably about a week or so before in preparation to my one-on-one with Brad, just so I could put all my ideas, all my frustrations, all my concerns, anything that I'm truly not the most clear on, that I'm sort of tracking on a daily or weekly basis, just so when it comes up to having that meeting, I'm not just pulling stuff out of left field. I have documented proof that this is true stuff that I'm dealing with. And that's what he helps me with, my biggest pain points. I mean, it's only an hour and a half meeting, so we try to cram a lot of stuff in there. So
like, what's a real example of something that you wrote down and you decided, okay, we're going to talk about this, and that he helped you with?
Sure. I'd say probably one of the more recent things that happened was actually good timing. It was probably a couple of days before my meeting, so it was perfect timing. We were doing a very large hardscape installation, retaining wall, and there was a change in plans, and the engineer that we were working with changed some stuff around on us, and I had to share with the client that we had to present close to a 6-figure change order. And just because of the overall scope of the work, and I never been in a position to have that conversation with a client. Obviously, it's a limiting mindset that I have with the dollars, but he was able to really guide me in the right direction and to help me mentally and emotionally prepare for having that conversation. It's definitely something outside of my comfort zone, asking for something that you couldn't prepare for, but at the same time, that was just something that came to mind.
So what was his advice?
His advice was just similar to what I just said it was a limiting mindset that I had. That you just need to drop that and be able to understand that this could just be a drop in the bank to some people. It doesn't have to be anything. It
seems
could
like
be, it could be a lot of money to us, but to some people, it's just proportionally, it just doesn't make as big of a difference in their lives.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we're taking advantage of a client, and we're just being realistic to the challenges that we faced and how to make altercations from the engineering specs.
Well, it's one of the things that even opened the show with. The numbers are what the numbers are. You do the math, you can do it 5 times. If the number's always the same, then that's correct. That's what we got to do.
Yes, exactly.
What's another example?
I mean, there's definitely been some, in my position, being able to be a leader for our employees and not knowing how to have these difficult conversations, not to get into too much detail.
We don't need to know names or anything, but
having difficult conversations with employees, never encountering that before, and being able to grow personally, professionally through those, and just be able to know what to say, what not to say, and just more ask questions rather than just...
You're not going into everything blind.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's definitely... The situations have changed over the course of the years, the 2 years that I've been working with Brad, and it started really more off in the technical, the business, the numbers, the finances, the client interaction, the pricing things out. But then it really started more or less nowadays. It's more the people aspect of things, dealing with employees, how to become a better leader for myself, for our staff. How do I make them better leaders and putting them into positions of ownership and taking the bull by the horns and not micromanaging. I know it's very tough to do in a business owner position, especially starting off early on, but...
The business is 2 years old.
Correct. So it's my baby. It's
by
tough.
nature,
It's tough.
Yeah, you're involved in everything.
Yeah, and just try to be able to let go of the vine a little bit more each and every day, each and every week, and start to delegate tasks a little bit more. That's the people aspect of things is my main focus right now. How do I grow people up in my position internally? Not so much in return, it is myself, but at the same time, how do I trickle down my teachings from Brad and transfer that down to the rest of the staff?
How much of a role? Because listen, I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like a lot of the things you're saying, it demonstrates like a lot of preparation, a lot of professionalism, a lot of like, let's make a plan before we jump into this.
Yep.
That seems to be the way that you're wired. But that being said, still 2 years into a business, you've gone from the startup phase where you're wearing all the hats, doing everything. You've gone to then hiring people and establishing like a management layer to handle different parts of the day-to-day so that you don't have to.
Yep.
And now you're in that third phase of the evolution of a business where you're not focused on getting things done. You're focused on how we get things done as a team and how we will grow and lead people so that we can continue to achieve more.
Yep.
You've done that in 2 years. How much of a role does your relationship with Brad play into that? Or is that the vision that you already had from the beginning? Because I think, and I just want to qualify this question a little bit, I think that one of the biggest advantages, and you tell me if you agree or not, but one of the biggest advantages of having a relationship with someone who's been there before, who's done similar things, but they're a decade or two down the road from you, they can tell you what's coming. You're going to see that bend. There's a hill, there's a cop behind the tree. Like all that stuff is nice to know. Does that make it easier for you to be more confident in taking those steps, or is it that this is just your plan from the beginning, you're following your roadmap?
I mean, it definitely helps out with confidence and giving us that foresight, but it's not him doing the physical tasks, the boots on the ground stuff. I still have to be the one having those difficult conversations. I'm still the one that has to know if it's right to purchase a vehicle or not, and how to price jobs and all those types of things. I mean, I'm physically the one performing those tasks, and he's just there to more be a coach on the sidelines. It's definitely helped out in me being mentally and emotionally prepared for what future tasks come ahead or what I can anticipate to come. But it to go off your question, I mean, it really wasn't something that I was envisioning in a sense, but it's what I had to harness internally from the quick conversation, those meetings that I had, because more or less I was the one that was responsible for enacting it. I mean, you could talk and have these meetings all you want, but if there's no action followed by a conversation, then the conversation was pointless.
It was a waste of time.
Correct.
So you say he's a coach from the sidelines, and you played sports. I played sports. I'm sure a lot of you here played sports growing up, maybe still play sports. Everyone gets into a fight with their coach at some point.
Yeah.
So have you gone into fights with your mentor, who's your coach, because you're running the business, you're in the shit every day,
Sure.
and now you're talking with someone who, he's been there before, but you guys talk once a month. Doesn't mean that he knows everything that you're dealing with.
Correct.
Has that led to some conflicts, some arguments where you disagree with his advice or disagree with what he's telling you to do?
Yeah, for sure. And that little bit of friction helps us to be able to share ideas back and forth openly. It doesn't happen too often, but I mean, the most recent thing that has happened that he said had to deal with a software.
Okay.
I know Hannah, our office assistant here, could attest because her and I were in the middle of trying to figure out what software to transition into to help with our growth.
Okay.
And her and I probably spent several hours just doing demos. And Brad all along said, you have to go with this specific platform. It's fantastic. I mean, Newcastle uses it, yada, yada, yada. And we tried it and it just did not work for us. And I had to have that difficult conversation and just say that, this is just not working for us. We can't fit the mold of what works for you may not work for us.
Right.
What works for 85 person or employee business may not work for 15 to 17 employees. Right. And just with what we need, it didn't fit those needs. So, I mean, he was in that meeting that I had with him, that monthly meeting, he was definitely a little disappointed because he was trying to get me onto it for so long because it's helped him out so much. And he has people in his office that could assist with it. But at the same time, I just had to say, you know what, this is just not working for us. I got to be honest with you. And you can't fit a square peg into a round hole.
No, and I mean, just on that specifically, there's there's a bunch of different platforms out there that people can use. B, if there's one thing that we've learned through doing this show and just looking at everyone here today, you can run your business a bunch of different ways and still get to where you want to go. That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur running your own business. You do it the way you want. Just play by the law.
Yep.
You can break rules, respect the law, and the rest falls into place.
Sure.
So, I think it's just that's an interesting one because it probably was very tempting to say, like, well, okay, we're going to go with the one that he's recommending because he can support us. He's been there, Then
there is another thing that also just came to mind. This was way the beginning of when we first started working together. And not to get into too much specifics, but there was an instance where I didn't give someone a referral fee for giving us work.
Okay.
And it was a good chunk of change. And I ended up doing it because of, I remember sitting in his office, he was more or less screaming at me, lack of a better term, and it was frightening, but also scared me straight to say, you can't lie, steal, cheat. You have to be morally and ethically right in business to continue to grow and continue to grow everyone around you as well. So, I mean, I never was in a position like that before, dealing with that specific instance, but at the same time, I was never in a position where...
So he called you out because you were making a mistake.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, we still talk it jokingly nowadays, and it really scared me straight. I remember that was probably the first couple months I was in business, and just being able to have that moment, I'm talking about it now because it was so impactful in my journey, and ever since then, I did the right thing. I moved on, I learned the lesson, and I could truly attest him for making sure that I stay on track and be the good business owner that everyone has to be in this position. be morally and ethically right to continue to do great things.
This episode is brought to you by Hardscaper.com. The Hardscaper mission is to empower industry professionals with the skills, inspiration, and confidence they need to take their businesses to new heights. Struggling with training programs for your team? Looking for helpful tips to build a better company? Subscribe today to gain access to hours of interactive on-demand Hardscape construction and business courses for free. Check out Hardscaper.com.
So I got one big question that I think some people are thinking here as they're listening to us, and that is this a cost for you, or is this just Brad being a nice guy?
The first couple weeks of us working, really, no. The first, when I was finishing out my fall semester before I ended up dropping out, I dropped out, it was more or less just on him, so to say. But then there was a specific instance when I was bidding on a six-figure job within the first couple weeks of me starting Golden Wolf. And I went to him and just say, hey, do you mind if I just hop on a quick call just to run through this estimate? That 6 figures was more than I did the year prior.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put things into proportion, just make sure before I send something out that it's not crazy. So at the end of that conversation, he said, well, if you're looking for more one-on-one time, more dedicated coaching, then that is a service that I do charge for.
Okay.
So full transparency, it is a monthly retainer, more or less. It's not capped by hours. It's just to use him as a resource. I mean, it's I don't really look at it as, it's not an expense by any means. It's more or less an investment because I've been able to use that foresight of a business owner that's been around for, say, I don't know, 25 years or so, 30 years. And to be able to take that knowledge and shove it into someone who's just starting a business, I mean, that's invaluable, more or less. So with the cost associated with it, I mean, it's more than reasonable. Hopefully I don't get a text from Brad saying he's jumping my prices up after this. But it really, in the grand scheme of things, it's been able to save us money. It's been able to grow us exponentially and propel us to where we are today.
It's great. And you were telling me that you're doing some mentorship for some younger contractors as well, or
yeah, so
young
that
people,
recently,
or what's going on?
Say that again?
Young contractors, or just young people, or what's the deal?
So it's not to the extent of where Brad and I's relationship are, but I obviously want to pay it forward, and be able to give back, learn what I have learned in the few short years that I've been in business, and just be able to help at least one person. I recently started a podcast a couple months ago, and my true intention of that was just to be able to help one person, because I remember listening to the Hardscaper podcast, the one that I'm on right now, How to Hardscape, a couple other ones out there, but those are the podcasts that help me
Get
grow.
started. Yeah.
So in terms of paying it forward, that's what I started to recently do. I didn't realize it, but I had a second cousin that lives in Wall Township in New Jersey, down by the beach, and he's in a landscaping business. He goes to Rutgers, and similar experience, or similar what I was dealing with going to college, the summers, yada, yada, yada. But and he reached out to me, more or less we're family, so he reached out to me just asking me a couple questions, and then it started to be more coming to the office, and then probably a couple hours, half a day, just going over issues that he was dealing with and going over his budget, pretty much more or less where I started with Brad, with all those numbers.
He's a step behind you now.
Correct. And
Brad's over here, you're here now, transitioning there. And
Yeah, and then there's also another local landscaper that we sub some work out to, that he's come into the office a couple of times, that I've been able to share some insight, share some information on. And then most recently, about a couple weeks ago, my second cousin, he brought in, from Rutgers University, he brought in 3 of his buddies that own landscape companies into the office for half a day. We started in the office going over softwares, going over legal stuff in terms of contracts and job offers, and I printed everything out. I'm an open book. I want to be able just to pay that forward. So I printed off anything and everything they wanted. I showed them anything and everything internally that they wanted to see, and I made like a mock budget for them just so they could see what their hourly cost is so that they know that they're bidding jobs appropriately coming into the spring season for each and every one of them. And all of them had different numbers as well. Instead of going with the industry average, just you have to know your specific numbers, which I really instilled on them, similar to what you guys were saying earlier today.
Right.
So, and then that led off to go into one of our jobs, pop them in the machines a little bit. I mean, they never been in an excavator or skid steer. So just being able to see the smile on their faces sort of brought me back all the way to when I was 5 years old, when I was just staring glued to the window, glued to the slider window. So it really is humbling to be able to pay it forward in just a short amount of time that I've been in business. And the things that I learned with Brad, I make it my own way, then share it down to their level or share it to where it applies to them more. But I mean, I personally love it. I mean, I don't view it as a waste of my time. I view it as truly helping someone that I not too long ago, or currently, more or less currently, am dealing with the same thing as but at a different level than them. So, I mean, I can only imagine where they're going to be in a couple years. And I mean, ideally, I want them to be better than myself. I just continue to see their growth makes me more or less happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's rewarding. I mean, that's
very rewarding.
That's why we do this show. It's just be able to get information like this, share it with everybody, and then grow the industry, and everyone grows. There's more than enough business for everyone.
Correct.
I've said it many times on the show, but my dad always says the sun shines for everyone. We're in a market of abundance.
Yeah.
Even with everything that everyone's saying about the economy, whatever, there's still more money out there than we can ever make. So we can all grow and we can all learn together. There's no problem there.
And another thing is something different that I did this time around was when we were sitting in the office, instead of myself just lecturing to them the entire time, it was an open conversation, but with the other people that we have in the office, we brought our project manager, Colin, out, production assistant, Hannah, out, just to be able to have that open and honest conversation with everyone, because it's not just me at the end of the day that's gotten to where we are today. I mean, it's everyone on our entire team, our crews, mechanic, I mean, everyone that has contributed to our success. So being able to share that knowledge, because I'm not as mechanically inclined as our mechanic Justin, and I'm not as skilled in the physical installation or operation of a machine compared to our foremans out there. So just being able to share that knowledge and wealth with these guys instead of just making it all about me is something that I know our staff likes, because they could do what I'm doing on a smaller scale for their specific role, and also gives them the opportunity to take the ownership and leadership of their position and share that with the next generation of people in the green industry.
Awesome. So what's next for Golden Wolf now that we're entering year 3 in business?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure that out, but obviously continue, or like I stated earlier, adding in a couple more crews. We are very big and heavy into the design build side of the industry. We're looking to get a little bit more recurring work in the maintenance side. So just trying to level or balance some things out. Get a salesperson, because I've been doing 99% of the sales the past couple of years, and one person can only do so much sales in a given year. So being able to, again, delegate those tasks to someone, and continue to be there to support them, but put people in opportunities to take ownership of a position and make their own destiny in a company. So next thing is also we do plan in the next probably year or so, depending on where the interest rates are, to build a facility. We've been working diligently to plan and prepare everything on the back end work, dealing with the SBA and dealing with real estate agents locally to when the right opportunity comes, just to be able to pull that trigger and go at it.
Wait, I would just want to come back to one thing that you said, because you said it a couple times now. That's you want people to take ownership of their position.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
So similar to what I stated earlier, I mean, I still micromanage every once in a while, but I've been trying to really work on that personally, professionally, just so I could take the instead of showing people, or obviously you got to show people have systems and processes in place to be able to know what they're doing right, if it's on track or off track. But at the same time, you train them, you prepare them, and then you allow them to take that leap of faith. And no matter if they fail or succeed, it's a great learning lesson.
Yeah.
And I mean, not everyone is perfect by any means. Failures are inevitable to happen. So by taking ownership, it means that no matter the position, that I'm not personally the one that's always questioning if they're doing it right or saying, is this done on time? Do I still do that? Sure, but not as much as I used to. So it's always something that I'm trying to work out of. But really to take ownership and leadership of that position is that I've learned things from them that I didn't even know about the position because they're in it each and every day. They take their jobs very seriously, no matter if it's out in the field or in the office. They take it extremely seriously, and they feel like more or less they have ownership over that position. It's not someone else's shared task. And we had an instance earlier in the year where we had some people step on other people's foot. And so how do we separate that and make sure that we're all aligned with our specific gifts so that we can all work together as a team and work towards that greater goal that we set in those quarterly and yearly meetings.
I think a big key to that is another thing you said, which is having those systems and processes mapped out.
Sure.
You can't expect someone to take ownership over a role if you don't have the systems and processes in place, because otherwise you're telling them to figure everything out. But if at least there's a roadmap, this is where we're going, this is how we get there, this is what we do and how we do it, well then you can do it. You know?
Exactly. And those are always changing. They're always, you always got to improve them. I mean, changing softwares, that's something that we got to change around as well. With the new technology that's coming out in the hardscaping, that's definitely something that we got to be able to adapt to. And,
but even stuff as simple as checklists.
Exactly. You know, how to send an invoice or how to send a quote out, how to estimate production rates, that type of stuff. I mean, that's the non-negotiables. Everything else could change more or less.
But if you build those things, then it becomes easier to add the different people.
Sure.
And it becomes easier to allow those different people to take ownership because it's a system. We play the system. It's like having plays. We do this. They have the ball in this position. This is how we defend. We have the ball. This is how we attack. It's the same thing. If you have that documented and shared across your company, then everything else that you're saying is possible. And that's why I'm saying like that third phase of the business, that evolution of your business so quick, because you got that stuff done early and then you work together with a mentor to be able to kind of point the ship where it should go. And you can always check like, hey, is this where we should be going? Like, what do you think about this? Like, should we go left of the tree or right of the tree? Like that kind of stuff helps you get where you want to go faster because you're going to make fewer mistakes. You're still going to make mistakes. You're still going to make very expensive mistakes. But you'll make less of them. And that's the biggest key.
100%. I mean, mistakes are inevitable, and I've obviously limited my mistakes by having like that coach on the sideline that I was referring to, but still, I mean, there's things that neither he or I could foresee. I mean, he's not in the business. He's something who I talked with on a monthly basis. So it's not every single thing that comes up I'm going to him for. It's just the larger things that I haven't encountered that I go to him for guidance and sometimes reassurance and just more explanation and more or less what would he do in my shoes, and then it's me acting on it.
That means like even the mistakes that you do make that neither of you were able to foresee, you now have a potentially better way to solve it too. Because you have the benefit of someone with experience being like, okay, well, here's what I would do if I did this. So that helps too.
100%.
Why don't we just go real quick? How, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Best way would be either LinkedIn. Marcus Celiano is my name, my handle, whatever you want to call it. Email is my first and last name at gwld.design. Or if you want to just even call the office, I'd be happy to just pick up a phone call and just chat for a couple minutes or set some time aside. Or if you want to hop on our social media, just shoot us a DM or a message, and we have
pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere. I mean, we're on many different platforms. We have a social media manager that will be able to set up a time
Okay.
So just whatever works for you, really.
Cool. All right.
Sure.
So why don't we, well, thank you for
No,
that.
of course.
Why don't we open up to any questions? So last time we did this, we had a couple of people asking questions of our guests. I mean, it could be about anything, but I think there's some pretty interesting stuff to dig around with, considering small, decent sized young company, but in 2 years, the growth that they've done. And I'm sure there's other challenges that you guys might be facing, like, for example, hiring people, retaining people. Like, that's a challenge. And I think if you're figuring out how to hire people and retain people with that little experience as a business, and they're buying into the vision long term when there isn't much of a history to lean on,
Correct.
You're doing something right. So
Thank you.
any questions or feedback? Or it doesn't need to be about this either. It could be just about anything we talked about today. So I'll just repeat the question so everyone could hear. So the question was, you've obviously seen a tremendous amount of growth based on everything that you've told us. A big chunk of that is attributed to marketing. What are you doing, or what's the recipe, or what are you doing in terms of marketing that is making that growth possible?
So we invest very heavily into marketing. We work with a full outsourced marketing agency. They're located up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and we sit down and develop an entire plan for the entire year. So it's on an Excel sheet, but it's printed out to more or less like a blueprint size paper, and it marks off each and every single month what our strategies are, whether it be print, whether it be digital, or a combination of those. I mean, we're probably on, I'd say, probably close to 10 different marketing platforms, ranging from social media to billboard to postcards to Google AdWords, a little bit of everything. It's more or less the saturation of the marketplace through not just doing one specific marketing tactic. It's the combination of those that really help develop a brand and awareness in a specific demographic. So again, leading on professionals, being able to ask the right questions, and being able to use their guidance and experience to help us develop a plan based on what we plan on investing, how many jobs we need for that year. It's all reverse engineering starting off this time of the year, so that it really has to take place sooner because your marketing efforts take about 6 to 8 weeks to see results. It's just planning, and really being able to not be afraid to invest. Obviously, we're in a casino. It's like playing the slot. You put $5 in, you hope to get $10 out.
Except you have a lot more influence.
Yeah. Exactly. So full transparency, we spend about $85,000 in marketing in a year. And it's definitely could be a lot to some companies. It could be little compared to some companies. But at the same time, we trusted the process and seen what the return is. I mean, we know our cost per lead, we know our cost per job, and similar to the slot analysis, if we put a couple $100 in, we know we're going to get this size job out of there. And being able to rely on those experts, being able to use people to what their gifts are to help the common business goal. That's really what it comes down to.
I think the big key there, just in terms of working that math, is you need to start with the budget for the year.
Yeah.
What does it cost to run the business? How much revenue do we want to generate? How much profit do we want to generate? From there, you're able to establish a sales target.
Yep.
From your sales target, then you break it down. Like Pete always likes to say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So how many bites is this elephant? If we want to do $5 million of revenue, let's just pick a number. Okay, well, what's our average project size look like? Our average project is $50,000. Okay, so we have to do, 100 jobs? We got to do 100 jobs. Is that right? Yeah, 100 jobs to hit that number. How are we going to sell 100 jobs? Well, what's our closing rate? Well, typically we need to meet 4 customers to close 1. All right, so that means that we need to meet 400 customers this year to be able to sell those jobs. I can't meet the 400 customers in December. I need to meet them in the first quarter of the year. So how am I going to do that? Well, now I need to figure out how many phone calls do we typically get? Well, we only get 10 phone calls a week. You work the math. Well, we need 50 phone calls a week. Okay, so how can we generate phone calls? Now you start to figure out, okay, what marketing tactics generate phone calls, and you figure out a mix, some print stuff, some digital stuff, some social media stuff, boom, boom, boom. This should bring in this many calls. This many calls will be trash. This many calls should be good. From this many calls being good, we should get this many appointments. From this many appointments, we should close about 25% of them. That gives me my 100 jobs. So that means I need to spend this much in marketing. From there, you go back to your budget. Because now, I need to spend $85,000 in marketing. My revenue was $5 million. That was to give me a profit of, $750,000. But I want that $750,000. I didn't account for $85,000 of marketing. So now I got to adjust that. So now my average sale price isn't $50,000 anymore. Maybe I need to sell my jobs at $54,000. So we're applying that increase on our pricing for this year so that my marketing is recovered, all my overhead is recovered, I'm making my revenue targets, I'm making my profit, I'm growing my business at the speed and the rhythm that I want to, and I'm controlling the numbers. That's why, like the courses that we have on Hardscaper, the budgeting, job costing, and estimating course is a great place to start. It teaches you how to build that budget. It teaches you how to figure out what the pricing for the jobs should be. And it teaches you how to do the analysis after the job to make sure that you made what you thought you were going to make, so you're on track and you can adjust throughout the season as you go. Another course that we have on there is the digital marketing for contractors, which, that's one aspect of marketing, but it's a very important one. So we have the A to Z, what you need to do to get a good foundation in place for digital marketing. A lot of the stuff doesn't cost you much at all. And once you have the foundation in place, then it's easy to start putting money on because you have the different machines that work for you. So now how much gas do you want to put in each one? How far do you want each one to run? So that's how you have to do it. That's a very, very short way of putting it, but that's the math and the process to establishing what your marketing strategy needs to look like from just the operational side of things. Then there's the branding aspect, there's the messaging aspect, there's the images you select, all that other stuff that goes into it. So that's why working with agencies is interesting. It can be very good. It can also be an absolute disaster if you didn't do all that preparation before.
Correct.
If you just go in there blind, unfortunately, some people, they'll rob you blind.
And also being able to track it no matter what type of source that you're using. I mean, you don't really know if it's working or not if you're not tracking it. Same thing like job costing. If you're not tracking your numbers, you don't know if you made if you made a profit on that job or not. You don't know if this specific marketing tactic is working or not. It's all comes down to KPIs and being able to track your metrics. Yeah. Because it is an investment, 100%.
We have access to so much data now running businesses. If you're not measuring everything that you can measure, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yep.
It's like you're punching out your dashboard, why?
There is also some softwares out there, depending on where you're currently at in business, that could help do a lot of that heavy lifting for you. So you could spend more of your time running the day-to-day business, not
analyzing everything,
number crunching in an Excel sheet at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah. That's where those softwares pay for themselves.
Yes, 100%. It's the time saving for sure.
Does that help? Yeah? Cool. Any other questions? Be anything at all? No? We're good? Okay. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up for today. Thank you very much for hanging out with us for this live episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, hardscaper.com, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you once again, Marcus, for joining us on the show. Till next time, everybody, work hard, pave harder, and we'll see you next time on the Hardscape Growth Show. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Each episode is all about taking the next step in running your business, so make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on your favorite podcast player. And if you're finding this information to be useful, help others in your position discover us by giving us a star rating and leaving a comment. We'll see you next week.